Hi, thank you for tuning in to the latest Hurricane Tracker app video update recorded Wednesday, September 30th at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Well, we have a lot to discuss this afternoon in this first of probably many video updates for coverage of Hurricane Joaquin, which is located east of the Bahamas. I do want to start with the latest infrared satellite loop. You can see that Joaquin is a very well organized hurricane. It is beginning to develop heavy thunderstorms right around the center and sustain those thunderstorms. And in fact, if you were to flip over to the visible satellite loop, you can see that for most of the afternoon and an eye has been trying to pop out. So definitely pressures are dropping. The storm should continue to grow slowly in size as the wind field expands in response to those lowering pressures. And it's got very symmetrical look to it. So this is a very healthy hurricane. It's moving into a much more favorable environment here over the central Bahamas, where wind shear is below 510 knots really. So over the next 24 to 36 hours, the forecasted track is for Joaquin to move slowly towards the southwest at about 6 miles per hour. And hurricane conditions will be felt here in the central Bahamas. In fact, hurricane warnings are in effect for the central areas of the Bahamian island chain. And then further to the northwest, hurricane watches are in effect due to the off chance that Joaquin moves a little bit further towards the west on the western side of this cone. So just something to just monitor there over the next couple of days in regards to the short-term movement. Now, as we get into the day Friday and into this weekend, we're going to be having a upper level low cut off over the southeastern United States, and clockwise flow around that should help move Joaquin from south to the north. And as it's moving north, it is forecasted to strengthen into a major hurricane, would be the second of the season. Hurricane Center is forecasting winds right now of 115 miles per hour. Waters out here are very warm and around the 85 to 87 degree range. And so plenty of fuel for Joaquin to intensify, and again, wind shear is forecasted to remain light throughout the next several days. As the system moves a little further to the north, it is anticipated right now that some weakening could occur back down to a Category 2 or even Category 1. But I would like to stress that many of the reliable computer models are still showing a Category 2, borderline Category 3 here off of the Outer Banks of North Carolina as we get into this weekend. So along with the track forecast, the intensity forecast is also very uncertain. The Hurricane Center keeps noting they have low confidence in their forecast as the computer models have not quite come into the agreement they would like to see 3-4 days out. So at this point, it's most important to focus on the cone. 3, 4, 5 days, the center could be just off or inland of North Carolina, or it could be halfway between the Outer Banks and Bermuda. So hopefully with time, we'll see this cone shrink and we'll really get a better idea in the next 48 hours as to where exactly this storm would track if it does move towards the north. There is still a possibility of the system moving off towards the northeast, out towards Bermuda into the open Atlantic. And we'll kind of talk about that in a little further depth here in just a moment. But, again, if you're in this cone of uncertainty, and this includes many of you in a lot of the big cities here in Eastern Virginia, Baltimore, Virginia Beach, the Outer Banks, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, Atlantic City, New York City, Long Island. So again, if you live in this region, you're in the cone, please check in often to see what the latest forecasts are and updates with Joaquin as they're likely to change over the next 2 to 3 days. Again, here's a overall kind of a wider view. You can see it's a very well-developed hurricane moving slowly towards the southwest. And I want to begin with our 5-day alert levels, which we just issued about an hour or so ago. So you can see down here in the Bahamas, tropical storm force and definitely hurricane force winds are imminent over the next 24 to 36 hours. And again, to the north and south of the central Bahamas, you still have to keep an eye in case there's any deviation in the track. But once the system moves to the north, there is still a possibility again, Joaquin could be moved towards the east, towards a weakness in the ridge over here over the central Atlantic. Again, that is possible, but it is the least likely scenario at this point, given what we're seeing in the model guidance. What's most likely, but not guaranteed, is that Joaquin would move towards the north, maybe even the north-northeast, still as a hurricane, possibly as a major Category 3 hurricane, as the National Hurricane Center is forecasting. And then as its influence greater by this cutoff upper level low over the southeast, the counterclockwise flow around that would kind of slingshot it towards the mid-Atlantic coast, somewhere really between the South Carolina and North Carolina border up through maybe southern New Jersey. Right now seems to be the target area, if you want to call it, that the models are kind of honing in on. So obviously, because of the latest data, the latest model consistency, we do have elevated alert levels here along the mid-Atlantic. And again, South Carolina down to the Georgia border, still say stay guarded to low levels. You can't really let your guard down at this point. And of course, even up here in New England, not out of the woods yet. And even if the storm does come into the mid-Atlantic, south of the big cities, we're still going to have a strong easterly push. Could still even see tropical storm force winds, coastal flooding. So definitely a vast array of problems, not only where the center makes landfall, if it does, but also to the north and east of the system. So based on all the data, we kind of analyze this and put it into a numerical number. What is the estimated chances that you could be affected by Joaquin here in the long range? Well, of course, obviously it's 100% for the Bahamas, as they're under, portions of the Bahamas are under a hurricane warning. And we introduced low chances about 9% in South Carolina. Then they increased about 40% and then to 37% here along the mid-Atlantic coast, and even still a 1 in 5 chance that we could still feel effects and have Joaquin move up a little further north up the coast. So again, really anywhere on the eastern seaboard, I'd say from the South Carolina-Georgia border up to about Long Island and Massachusetts, need to continue to pay close attention to the future forecast of this system. Again, here's the wind swath. You can see hurricane force winds will be coming into the Bahamas over the next 24 to 36 hours. Now here's a look at the global models. We always talk about the GFS, the UK Met, the CMC. Really each country puts out its own model. This map does not include the European model, which is one of the better models. We do talk about it a lot here at the Hurricane Tracker app. But you can see, 4 to 5 days out, this is actually really good consistency, a very good consensus of landfall somewhere here along the North Carolina coast. And then we do have one model here going off towards the northeast, the NAM model, which really doesn't handle the tropics very well. So that model can usually be discounted in most cases. And again, here's a little closer look at 4 or 5 days, tightly clustered here, mainly along the North Carolina coast. And as far as model intensity, if you take the average, looks like we could get at least a Cat 2, again, possibly even peaking out at a Cat 3 hurricane. Now this is the GFS ensemble computer model run. So you have the main operational run of the American GFS model, and then kind of under that model you have many different variations with different variables to begin. And you can still see we have some of the ensemble members of the GFS going out to sea, but the majority of them, do take it towards the United States coast. So again, and that's one of the main reasons we have elevated alert levels. Not only are some of the major global models showing that left hook into the coast, but their ensemble members are also agreeing with them for the most part. So now here's a look at the individual runs for some of the major computer models at where they're forecasting Joaquin to be in about 4 days from now. So you'll see this is just going to kind of do a slideshow and run through. And you'll notice here, I'm going to start with this next slide here. So here's the UK Met, shows a hurricane over eastern North Carolina. The Canadian CMC model shows a hurricane over there. So does the NavGem. The GFS shows a US landfall. The FIM model as well. Then we get to the European model, and it's way to the east like the NAM model. And let me go ahead and just stop on the European run here so we can analyze this a little bit further. So here's the upper level low I mentioned earlier, upper level cutoff low that's forecasted to be over the southeastern United States. And we also have a ridge of high pressure extending down here into the central Atlantic. And usually the storm is going to find the path of least resistance between the two. And of course, each model has a different equation as to where this low is going to be, as to where this high is going to be, how strong each of these players are going to be. And right now the European model is showing the remnants of Ida, believe it or not, which we were tracking over a week ago, helping to break down the ridge, and hence the storm would find the weakness and move east into that weakness and out into the open Atlantic. And it also has this cutoff low a little further south and east, which would also help shove it more towards the northeast instead of a southerly to northerly fashion towards the coast. So again, most of the computer models show the cutoff low a little further inland and a stronger ridge of high pressure. So right now, the European model, even though it's one of the best models we have, is an outlier. It's kind of out here all alone with just a couple of other models that really aren't very reliable. So at the moment, we are not putting much weight in this and sticking with the fact that there's a very good possibility that all of these models here, and this is over a dozen of them, do show a landfall here, unfortunately, in the long term, somewhere along the mid-Atlantic coast. So here's a look at the 500 millibar upper air pattern, which really helps to steer hurricanes. You can see the upper level cutoff low that I mentioned earlier digging south here into the northeastern Gulf Coast. Southerly, the northerly flow ahead of that would help pull Joaquin to the north and then eventually northwest into the coast. Again, you can see this strong ridge of high pressure kind of nosing down here northeast of Joaquin. Again, this is depicted by the GFS model. And again, the European model is showing the ridge to be weaker out here, hence the northerly turn. So hopefully in the next 12, 24 hours, hopefully we'll see the models either swing towards the European, which is unlikely, or the European model, which is one of the lone holdouts, swing back more towards this solution here. And again, the intensity forecast is also very uncertain, but the main takeaway today is there is still a possibility Joaquin could make landfall as a Category 2, possibly even a little stronger system here about 4 to 5 days from now. So if you live in this area, remain vigilant, keep your eyes out, check in often for the forecast, and as always, we'll keep you updated here at the Hurricane Tracker app. Thank you so much for using the Hurricane Tracker app and for following us on Twitter and social media. We're here to give you the facts. We're not here to hype anything. We want to lay things out, provide as much information so you, our user and viewer, can make the best decision possible and kind of have a decent understanding of what may be happening or may not be happening down the road. Thanks again for watching. Have a great evening.